morning, everybody. So just I will go in detail with the LOPA, okay? And risk graph I will introduce you because risk graph nowadays we are not that much using because it's little bit qualitative based and LOPA is semi-quantitative. And if you want to increase the what you call the quantitative nature, it's more accurate. You can make it in LOPA. Okay, and the LOPA scenarios and the frequencies we are using in QRA. So now LOPA is getting more and more important because it depends more on the what you call numbers, and you can give the numbers and then you can assign the scenarios more specifically. This graph is almost like that, but it's more qualitative based and it's little bit easy. LOPA is a little bit tougher thing because we need the data. Okay. Nowadays we are moving towards LOPA, that is layer of protection analysis, and risk graph is little bit on the general side. It is being used. Okay. So I will go in depth of LOPA and risk graph. How to I will make you understand what we are doing in risk graph. Then it will be easy because what we are doing in LOPA and you will be generalizing in risk graph. Okay. Okay. For LOPA, the basis. Normally, we ask for any document collection, anything when we are going for a LOPA study of a unit or anything, process unit or anything. We will ask for ASAP. Okay, ASAP and process description and safety, that is cause effect diagrams. Okay, why we are asking ASAP? Because this is already it is scenario. It's already available, so we can reduce the time and it can be more okay because ASAP will be analyzing each and every scenario causes. So we will be taking the causes, that initiating causes from that one, and consequence also we are taking from the ASAP. Okay, so first I will explain. Okay. So I will explain what is SIL assessment study. So what is the relation between ASAP and SIL? Okay. Then understanding safety integrity level and risk matrix and ALOP principle, because LOPA we will be grading the consequence and we have to fix what consequence we will get and what should allow an ALOP principle and what are the layers we have to consider and what protection, that is layers of protection, hierarchy of controls. This also risk reduction factors. Okay, and study example I will show you and brief introduction to the risk graph. Okay, this is our agenda today. Okay, I will move to the next one. Okay, just I will explain what is the relation between ASAP and SIL and all. Okay, I think you will be knowing everybody. I think ASAP. I think I cannot conduct a pool or anything here. I assume you know a little bit about ASAP. ASAP is nothing but developing a scenario in a particular node and putting a deviations with the guide words and analyzing the each scenario. What will be our consequence? What will be our likelihood? And what will be the residual risk? And what recommendation we require. Okay. So both are risk analysis. But what is the difference here? Major difference. Difference here is ASAP session considers SIF, that is safety integrated function. Safety integrated function means low level trip, low temperature trip, high temperature trip, or low pressure, high pressure trip. That is without even human intervention. Automatically, the system functions without human interventions. This is a major thing. That is safety integrated function. ASAP considers the safety integrated function in the positive side, that it assumes it works. It will give the credit. Okay, but what LOPA does, how much credible this safety integrated function, whether it can fail. Okay, and what should be the consequence if it fails? Now you can see ASAP is generally it's considering safety integrated function as a one of the protection layer, and it assumes it doesn't fail. But safety integrated this SIL assessment studies, that is LOPA studies, considers safety integrated function and what is the credibility of it, whether it can fail. If it fails, what will be the consequence? This is the LOPA. That is, you can say ASAP. The next step is LOPA. ASAP is qualitative and LOPA is semi-quantitative and QRA is quantitative. So this is the steps. Okay. So what now we can say ASAP, then ASAP considers all the modes of bypass mode, maintenance mode, startup, shutdown, everything. But LOPA considers only the plant steady state running. What is the shift, when it will get demanded, and what will be the credibility of the safety integrated function, whether it will function or it will fail. That is we are going to analyze. That is only steady state operation. I think you are clear in it now. Little bit ASAP and LOPA. Okay. But how we are going to use it to make it more thing, because ASAP we will be analyzing each and everything. Here LOPA we will be analyzing only the safety integrated function. But there is a relation between these two. If you say ASAP, it will be a guide word based, and we will get the deviation. We will apply the deviation to our design intent, and we will get the possible causes, each causes. And for each cause, we will identify the consequence, what will be the severity, likelihood, safeguards, and any actions required, everything. Now we can see LOPA is that is impact of even description. What will happen? Now we are analyzing only safety integrated function. You are taken safety integrated function as safeguard. So safety integrated function, if it falls, what will be the impact? What will be the impact severity level we have? Because we have to analyze in terms of numbers. What will be the severity level? I will explain it later, how to make the understand the different severity, fix the different severity levels. Okay, and we have to find the initiating causes, and we can see the relation between ASAP and here now. Their possible causes is the initiating causes here. Okay, initiating cause means what are the conditions this impact even can occur. Okay, what will be the initiating frequency, and what the other protection layers we have other than the SIF. If you have a number of other protection layers, this SIF dependency becomes little bit less. For example, if you have a BPS, general process, DCS control, level control, pressure control, temperature control. So it will try to control. So demand on the low level trip or low temperature, high temperature trip becomes little bit less. It will be less frequent. So there is one layer of protection. You will get an alarm also. Alarm means operator will intervene. So you will not allow the condition to drift, so that you can safety integrated has to come into picture. So there is what are the other protection layers? Sometimes general purpose design, that is the system itself inherently designed for it. For example, if the pressure means if the pressure, the vessel is designed for the highest possible pressure, that has to be given credit. Okay. Now, if you see one thing, all these layers should be independent. Okay. If we have a BPS, that general, it's also generating alarm. You should not give credit for it. For example, if you have n number of alarms, 10 alarms, none at one, you got to give credit only for the alarm. So it means IPL, that is independent protection layers. There are other protection layers also. Suppose if your consequence occurs, you have other mitigation measures also. Maybe high pressure, your pressure relief valve may come in picture. Or if any other leak means your deluge system can come into picture. So what are the other mitigation measures you have? Okay, that also will be given credit, but that has to be proven. Okay, using all this likelihood, we will reduce the intermediate, how the event can come. Because of DCS control system, the low level trip may not come. So what will be the reduction in frequency? Then finally, we will see, okay, this is the SIF condition. What will be the SIF integrity level? Okay, we have 4 levels. I will explain that one. 4 levels of SIF. Okay. Then mitigated event likelihood. What will be the, suppose if you have a SIF level of this SIFs that we used to call SIL 1, SIL 2, SIL 3, SIL 4. Then what will be the likelihood after applying the risk reduction factor? Okay, this is the way we have to do LOPA. You can see the relation between ASAP and LOPA. The LOPA becomes little bit simpler if you have ASAP. Okay, I will go to the next one. So this is the thing now. Normally you will do it ASAP. You will create initiating event, process deviations, what all the safety safeguards, and what will be the impact event, what will be the end consequence. This is the ASAP principle. Now just we will be bringing impact event first because we are considering SIF and the safeguards. Now we have to check the credibility of the safeguard, that the SIF safeguard. Okay. Okay. Now you will be able to understand, I think, ASAP, relation between ASAP and relation between LOPA. Okay. John, shall I break? Let them ask some whether they understood. They want any further explanation. John? John, you're able to hear me? Hello?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, any doubt? So they have to unmute. No, that is what. Any doubts here? Anything you want further explanation?
If you have any doubt, please ask. Previous slide.
Yeah.
They're asking about previous slide.
Want anything? You can raise it up now, and I will try to explain so that we can proceed further.
Difference.
Can you go to previous slide, sir?
Previous slide. They're asking about the previous slide.
Yeah. Any doubt?
So what is BPCS? What you told, sir?
BPC is Basic Process Control System. That is our DCS control.
DCS only.
Level control. So you have a level transmitter, there will be a logic solver, and it will be controlling a fan element, level control element, input or output. You will be giving the set point and it will be giving the output. Automatically it will be controlling. There's no human intervention there. Okay, if you can take it on manual, it will be human intervention. If it is an auto, it is automatically controls. That is BPCs. Okay. Okay, I will proceed further now.
Sir, can you
Yeah. Go ahead, ma'am.
explain relation between regarding Hijab and LOPA?
No, that's ASAP is a in-depth study. It studies all the modes. Okay, and ASAP considers safety integrated function. Suppose if I am a low level vessel is having, I am considering a level. Okay, there is a low level comes on the low level pump trips. Because if pump is not tripping, you will have a sea leak, you may have a vapor cloud generation, or you may have explosion and all. It considers, okay, you have a level control, that's one safeguard. Okay, if it considers deviation as a level control deviation, it will not give the credit for it. And you say alarm, and then you have a safety integrated function, low level, okay. So there is a safeguard, but it will not go in depth whether this safety integration function will function or it will not function. Okay, now LOPA is analyzing only the safety integrated function, whether how much credible it is. ASAP simply considers a safeguard, but LOPA checks it, whether it actually will function, whether it can fail. Suppose my initiating element, that's level transmitters can fail, my logic solver can fail. Okay, my final element valve may not be closed or pump will not trip. All these things analyzing is in LOPA. That is safety integrated function. What ASAP considers as a safeguard, it is checking that safeguard. What is credibility? Okay, just I will give you an example. You have a policeman and you have a CRPF, you have a BSF. You know the difference, how much credible it will be. All are protections, all are protecting, but how credible? ASAP simply consider, we have a one security system, but LOPA checks whether it is what credible it is. Whether it's normal security, private security, whether it's this one or CRPF, or CASF, or BSF, what are the things they have, how much credible they are, what trainings they have gone. Okay, like this, it checks it. But ASAP consider, okay, I have a security, okay, fine. LOPA not this. LOPA checks the credibility of the safety integrated function. Okay.
Is this LOPA is about the instrumentation only, sir?
Yeah, instrumentation, that is instrumentation safety trip only.
Trips and alarms.
Yes, not only, not alarms, only trips.
Only trips.
Only trips.
The reliability of the trip.
Yes, yes, simple. Reliability of the trip. Okay. Sometimes it may not act. We will assume that it will act. Sometimes it will not act. Okay. Suppose some ball may get struck up. Then we will not get things. So what will happen? That is the analysis in SIL. Okay. What is meant by SIL? That is SIL means, I'll proceed then, safety integrity level. It means that integrity. You can see that one. Safety integrity level. This is the base. Okay. So what we are going to do in this one LOPA study? What will be the probability fail on demand? Suppose if it is demanded, a low level trip should act. When it can fail, what is the probability it can fail? Normally PFD they will use in a low demand, suppose once in a, more than once in 2 years, once in 4 years is demanded. If the frequency becomes no more, nowadays we are using probability of failure on per hour PFH. Okay, probability of failure and demand PFD is the low demand process. Okay, normally it will be low demand. High demand is very, very mostly towards the mechanical operations. We will discuss that one later. Okay. And it is, we can say, statistical representation with numbers. We will not be going in depth, but generalized numbers we will see. So we have the computation will be there. So what will be the risk reduction factor we will get in numbers. Okay. So the demand occurs whenever a process reaches the trip condition and causes the shift to act. So this is the demand, whether it will fail or whether it will act. Okay, that is what we are going to check. There are 4 levels already, which I have told you. There are 4 levels: SIL 1, SIL 2, SIL 3, SIL 4. SIL 1 is little bit risk reduction factor is less. SIL 4 is risk reduction factor is more. Just simple, I can say example, an ordinary car, or you have an Audi car or anything on high rated things. Okay, where they cannot fail. So there will be a lot of checks will be there, and lot of lot of checks and counter checks, lot of analysis will be there. Okay, but the costings, everything will increase. Yeah, SIL 1 to SIL 4. I will explain. Okay, so this is a general process. What is SIF? Okay, you can see a sensor. You can say a sensor. This is we used to call it initiating elements. From it goes to a logic solver. It trips it. So any pressure increase or anything on the other side, it trips it. So automatically it functions. It will not depend upon the human dependency is not there. Okay, there are 3 parts: sensors, logic solver, and final element. Okay, this is total. We used to call it one SIF. Safety integrated function. Okay. Now I said SIL 1, SIL 2, SIL 3, SIL 4. Now see the numbers. Okay, risk reduction factors. For SIL 1, it is 100 to 10. That means if it is demanded 10 times, it may fail 1 time. Okay. If you see SIL 2, it is 100 to 1000. If it is demanded 100 times, it will fail in 1 time. If it is SIL 3, if it is demanded 1000 times, it will fail in 1 time. If it is SIL 4, if it is demanded 10,000 times, it will fail in 1 time. Now see the failure rate. Okay, it becomes more stringent. SIL 1 is little, but we can fail. But SIL 4, it is very, very rare to fail. How we are going to get this one? There are 3 elements: initiating elements, logic solver, and final. All 3 has to be connected, because initiating elements also fail, logic solver also can fail, final element also fail. So all combining 3, only this risk reduction factor. Not only initiating elements, logic solver and final. It's a combination. Okay, and the quality of it: SIL 1, SIL 2, SIL 3, SIL 4. Okay, where you will get it? Once the manufacturer equipment who does it or anything, he has to go for a certifying third-party agency where he will check it and he will give the quality certificate. Okay, this the valve is SIL 3 rated. This logic solver is SIL 3 rated. This initiating element is SIL 3 rated. Okay. So, but there are other free numbers also. Just buying it also, it's not. You have to maintain it. Okay, how you are maintaining also plays into everything. Then only your probability of failure demand will remain. If you are not maintaining, if your SIL 4 can end up in SIL 1. Okay, this is the what do you call calculations here. That checking we used to call it proof test. Okay, if you are not doing the proper proof test, the quality of proof test is less, then automatically SIL 4 element can end up in SIL 1. Okay, I will go to next one. Okay, just you can see, I can SIL 1, SIL 2, SIL 3. You can see one level transmitter and it's actuating one logic solver, one XV, one transmitter, one logic solver, one trans. So normally it will be SIL 1 unless otherwise certified. This one is SIL 2, this one is SIL 2, then this one is SIL 2, then whole loop is called SIL 2. For example, my final element is SIL 1. These two are SIL 2. No, this is SIL 1. Here, what is the weakest link? That is the rating. Same for SIL 2. Okay, it will mostly SIL 2 number of elements they will increase. There will be 2 or 2 out of 3 or 3 will be there. Mostly failure of logic solver will be less. Failure mostly will be in final element and initiating elements. Okay, this you have 2 initiating elements. If your final element is certified for SIL 2, this is SIL 2 loop. For example, SIL 3, you have 2 final elements, 2 walls closing at the same for the same logic solvers. Okay, you have 2 out of the, for example, level transmitter. Okay, you have 3 level transmitters, 2 out of 3 logic you are given. If 2 transmitter goes down below a particular set point, for example, 10%, these 2 walls will close. Or if it high level, if it goes above 80%, but 2 shows 80, then these 2 walls will close. This wall can fail, but this will function. Both failing at the same time, so its frequency is less. So that is what the SIL 3 is given. So just now we can go back. You can see the failure rate. When it is demanded, the failure should not be there. If the failure is less, it's SIL 4. If failure is, possibility of failure is more, then SIL 1. But normally in process industries, refineries, we will not go for SIL 4. SIL 4 only for nuclear industries. Okay, SIL 1, SIL 2, SIL 3. Only we will be concentrating on the process industries, that is refineries, fertilizers, petrochemical plants and all things. Only nuclear industry this deals with SIL 4. Why? What other than this proof test? It becomes one of the factor that becomes real variable. It depends upon how you are doing it, how frequently you are doing it. Sometimes you can check low level. Okay, if valve is closing, you will not be able to check the final element operation. And frequency of the testing will become one. You will be able to test only in the shutdown conditions. So automatically your reliability will drop down. Okay, so that's what normally we will be ending up with SIL 3. Otherwise, they will go for engineering modifications to reduce the dependency on the safety integrated function. Okay. So now you will be able to understand SIL 1, what is SIL 1, SIL 2, and SIL 3. I will go. This is one way of doing it. They have two out of 3 PTs. You can assume 1 PT failing. For example, if you have 1 PT, 1 logic solver, 1 valve, this PT can fail. If you have 3 PTs, all the 3 PTs failing at the same time, it's almost impossible. At least even 2 PTs failing at the same time, it's almost impossible. Unless otherwise, it's the real problem in the process. Okay, and you have 2 valves. So even if 1 logic solver operates, it will close both the valves. Even 1 valve may stuck up also, other valve will help. Other valve will close, so you will be in safe condition. Just you are making sure. This is a safety. You are making sure so this will not fail. For example, in a furnace, I am having a fuel gas system going into the furnace. By any chance, my flame got tripped, or because of low pressure it got tripped. It will close, block and bleed. You have 2 blocks and you have bleed also. Instead of allowing, suppose if there is no flame or there is no thing, your fuel gas can pass and it will go. And if you go for ignition, it will go for explosion. There they will have 2 XVs. Another one is in between, there will be a block. Even if you pass it also, it will go to the flare or a safe place displacement. So both valve will not fail at the same time and vent also opens. So ultimately, probability of fuel gas going to the furnace becomes less. Okay. Okay, this is the principle here. Your dependency you are increasing. Okay. Now there is a one more thing. Safety integrated system and safety integrated function. It's just a thing. You may have a different. So just understand the safety integrated system is combination of multiple functions. For example, now you have just given a one feed pump. I'll try to give. Just so assume one vessel. So there are a lot of inputs coming, and vessel pump you have to trip your pump. This is your tripping function. It can have a multiple thing. Suppose if you have an emergency trip, for example, I am assuming the DSTS, hydrocracker unit, or any other this isomerization unit, all these things. Suppose if you want to depressurize the loop, automatically it will trip the feed pump also. This is one safety integrated function. Okay, it will actuate the logic circuit, and final element, it will stop the feed pumps. And it does the other activities. So it trips the main burners, it closes the feed to the HP loop, and it trips the any other requirement for the feed pump for the vendor, it will add here. So you can see it is a one safety integrated function. And there is a one more also. If there is a low recycle gas flow, then your furnace has to trip and feed pump has to trip. That is one safety integrated function. Suppose low level in the surge drum, okay, there is a one safety integrated function. So we can see this is one safety, this is initiating element, logic solver, this is final element. Everything will actuate. This is one safety integrated function. That is low recycle gas flow. This is low level in the surge drum. Then also you have to trip the pump. This is another safety integrated function. Combining all this, we used to call it SIS, safety integrated system. Okay. Okay, now we'll move to next. No, I told SIL 1, SIL 2, SIL 3, SIL 4. Okay. There is a cost versus safety. If there is a water vessel, there is a water pump. I cannot go for a SIL 3 or SIL 4. It's highly what you call just fooling us. Nobody will accept it. You need to have a proper consequence. Then only you can go. There should be an explanation. There is a safety versus cost. Before that, just to analyze that, we have to understand what is the industrial answer. What are the problems we will face in a refinery or petrochemical industries or any process industries. Okay, then only we will require whether we will require a SIL 1, whether we require a SIL 2, whether we require a SIL 3, whether we require a SIL 4. For example, any president or anybody, Trump or anybody going, they will not go in Maruti. They have their own safety requirements. Okay, if I am going somewhere, they will not give me anything. So like this, we have to just, I'm telling an example like this. Okay, like process also it has. So we have to analyze the consequence. What are the general consequence? What are the things? If a fire occurs, it can be a flash fire, it can be a jet fire, it can be a pool fire, it can be a secondary fire. Pool fire means normally in a, what you call safety guy, anything. Pool fire is for me is very simple. It's going to give you only an asset damage. Okay, jet fire can be a little bit more dangerous because it can damage the adjacent things also. It may have the heat intensity will be very high and everything. So jet fire create into other secondary fires and all everything. Flash fire is explosions. If you have vapor generation, if an naphtha leaks, Class A is more dangerous than Class B or Class C. If Class C leaks, for me, I will result in only pool fire. Sometimes, if you are operating a liquid at above its auto ignition temperature, if it leaks, it will end up in jet fire. Or if it evaporates, if the LPG leaks, you know the LPG leak, how much dangerous it is. If you have a LPG leak, if you have a vacuum gas oil leak, you know the difference of consequence. Okay. Then what will be the explosion? This is the fire scenario. Explosion scenarios. You can have a chemical explosions, maybe runaway reactions or anything. It may result in a chemical explosion or physical explosion, a pressurizing condition. You can go into or vacuum also. Vacuum is more dangerous than a higher pressure side. Normally they will think of higher pressure. Most of the cases they will not think of vacuum. Vacuum is the most dangerous because all the hydrocarbon vessels are steam mode systems, and most of the vessels are not designed for that. If you have a steam mode system, if the steam goes in, there is a possibility of condensation. The vessel will result in a vacuum. Okay, then there it can go for a buckle, and if there any hydrocarbon anything is there, it will go for a big catastrophe. Okay, then vapor cloud explosion. Any pump seal leak occurs. If it generates vapor, so it will result in a explosion. Explosion means the effect will be very huge. The next one is boiling liquid evaporating vapor explosion. This is you have a liquid. If there's some secondary fire outside, the material integrity getting reduced and it goes for an explosion. This is very, very dangerous, like just like a bomb. And another one is toxic releases. Refinery, each and every place you will have H2S. That is a major operation of a refinery. All the hydrocarbons, all the things you will have H2S. Okay, if H2S release occurs up to 10 ppm to a safe, you will get a rotten smell, you can escape. Or you will have a PPE, that is your personal director and all. If it goes around 30 plus, first thing it affects is your smell. You will lose the rotten smell, you will not get it. But only if you have a PPE, it will escape. You will know that there is a leak. If it goes above 300 or 400 ppm, there is an instant death. Okay, you have to see that what is the consequence, what scenario we will get, and what is the consequence if the safety integrated function is not coming. This is the basis of it. Then you got to go for SIL 1, SIL 2, SIL 3, SIL 4. So I have to reduce the risk reduction factor so that event will not occur. That is the basis. Okay. Now just say what will be the consequence. Suppose if any event occurs, can it kill someone? How much it is going to cost, both direct, indirect, insured or uninsured. That is very, very important. Normally we will look at only the direct. Indirect costs are almost, you can say almost 7 to 10 times of the direct cost. Direct cost is your employee getting injured, his medical expenses, his wages, anything. But your supervisor has to spend time. And you have to have a replacement. The replacement has to go for a training. So a lot of other things are there. And something you know about insurance. Some will be insured, some is not insured. Then your cost increases. So you have to analyze what is my direct cost, indirect cost, insured or uninsured, everything you have to analyze. Okay, that is becomes asset. Generalized used to call it asset. Is it going to cause any environmental issues? Okay, if you have a leak, what will be the suppose if you go to the adjacent populated area, what will happen? Or it is going to damage my flora, fauna, or any water body or anything. I can directly list what will be the effect. You have to analyze it. And last one is now it becomes more and more important. What will be your public relations? How do you even getting escalated? Sometimes it may end up in regulatory actions. They will ask you the company to close. Just remember what happened to Maggie. It's 2-3 years back. He's not able to even run the plant for more than 3 to 6 months. He has to prove it. Okay, there is a lead came, so that becomes a carcinogenic and all these issues. Then you will be able to, you can relate this one. Now, how much the public relations becomes with the mobiles and all the things, it can be very easily, it can spread over. Okay, now COVID-19 also, relation between COVID-19 and SARS. When SARS was coming, not that much panic, but COVID-19 was too much panic. So this is the now what the condition what we are in the media world what we have, how much fast the information can go. So this becomes really important now. Okay, so these are the consequences. It can kill someone, or what will be the cost, asset damage, what will be the environmental damage, what will be the damage on your reputation. Okay. Now this event everywhere there is a possibility always. If you are driving a car, for example, just there will be an accident, you may have a death or anything. Always there is a possibility. How we are going to reduce it? What will be the inherent design to the equipment so that that event will not occur? Sometimes pumps, they will have a double mechanical seal. So seal leak will not occur. Okay, so like that, some vessel, if it is process pressure is almost 15, the vessel may be designed for 20. Or this vessel is designed for full wide. So what is the inherent design to the equipment? So automatically event likelihood comes down. Then what are the other controls you have? That is DCS control. That is what basic process control system. Okay, that is level control, temperature control, because that will be acting to control the event will not occur. And what are the alarms you have? Then operator will come and intervene. So he will correct the system. Okay. What are the safety integrated system you have to avoid the consequence, to avoid the likelihood of the consequence? If it occurs, how we are going to act on it? What is the emergency response plan? Every company will be doing level 1 scenarios, level 2 scenarios, level 3 scenarios. They will be doing, actually they have to do every 3 months level 2 scenarios test. At least once in a year or once in 6 months, you have to do level 3 scenarios. Level 3 means your society getting affected. You have to do a test, whether you are prepared for it, whether you are adjacent, police and district personnel are ready for it if anything occurs. So this is the emergency ERDMP, emergency response disaster management plan. Okay, so how you are ready for it. But that will not be given much credit here because there is a lot of deviations, lot of if and buts there. Okay, so now we can see what is the safety integrated function comes here. What will be the credibility of? Now it can reduce the likelihood. That is our study. Okay, you might have seen this risk matrix. So here there are a lot of numbers given. Okay, you can see the A, B, C, D given as once in a year, E once in a year. If the event occurs, we'll give a E. To turn around durations. And once in 20 years, C. Once in 100 years, once in it's more than 100 years, you can take this like. For example, if I have a level control, single element level control, okay, it can fail. Or suppose process disturbance. So how much frequency it can do? What are the protection layers? Okay, it will reduce the frequency. If you have a 3 or 4 protection layers, if I have alarm, if I have a safety integrated function, and if I have a level control, independent. So all these things, it will reduce the frequency. We even can occur once, for example, process upset can reduce that low level in a surge number. Okay, it may occur multiple times in a year. So I have a level control. Okay, so it comes this, so there is a feed coming from the storage also, it will supply, so it will not reduce, so it will be. I have an alarm, so operator will take action, so frequency gets reduced. If I have low level trip, it ends up in B. So what is that? Still it is in red. I have to look for other. The safety integrated function has to be now SIL 1, it cannot be SIL 1, it has to be SIL 2. Okay, this is the way to analyze it, and we have to see the what is the consequence. If I have only passive, if I have water, I can have a maximum of first aid. I cannot go for a SIL 3 year or anything. You can see, so green is, you can see, is red is intolerable zone where you have to go for additional SIL levels or another protection layers. Yellow is, yes, there is a risk, but it is controlled. It is, we used to call it as low as reasonably practicable, but you have to demonstrate it for the safety on vertical institutions and your regulatory bodies. You have the safety measures and it is regularly checked and it will lack. You have to prove it. You have to demonstrate. And green is acceptable risk. Always there is a risk. Okay, even if I am walking, I can fall down. So always there is a risk. So there are some risks which can be managed. Okay, so this is green is yellow and red. What we are analyzing, if you are in red, we have to go for more SIL red. So if you are analyzing only SIL, you have to go for more SIL rated. SIL 2, SIL 3 like that. If it is in green, SIL 1 is enough. If it is in yellow, we have to look for other protection layers. Still there is a consequence is there. We have to go for other higher SIL rated. Okay. Now, just to make it for LOPA thing, we are converting this risk matrix into some numbers. Okay. I am telling, you can say once in a year it is agreeable. I will be putting, but my company will be putting, no, you should not think of like that, because if you put a safe limit more, at least you will be able to achieve little bit in between. It says once in 100 years, it's allowable. You will design the systems like that. For single fatality, it is once in 100,000 years, it is agreeable. Okay, 100,000 man years. Okay, or multiple fatalities, 1 million man years, it's okay. So this is the company agrees this one. Okay, I have a risk. Okay, 1 million man years it occurs. It's okay. So you have to target that one. So just you can say this one. This risk matrix is converted into this one. That is the importance. Okay, this is the management agrees. Okay, this is the thing I have. Okay, this I have. He will tell it to the government. He will tell it to the regulatory bodies. That means he agrees this one. We have to see shift level. When we are analyzing a consequence, we'll be analyzing only this one. When we are going for example, you will be able to understand it. Okay. We'll go to next the same thing. Now what I do here, we are telling 10 power minus 6 multiple fatalities, single fatality. Where it came, from where it came, that is important. This is the Allah principle, internationally agreed. Some even in US it is not specifically mentioned. UK, Netherlands, or EU countries, and Gulf, all the things. Even India also, we don't have this type of Allah principle. Okay, what it means? This is, you can see the top high risk, it is the intolerable zone. Here it says 1 death per 100,000 man years. Okay, in between this 1 death per 1 million man years is the bottom line. So in between, you used to call it tolerable region, but you have to prove what safety measures are taken. Here it is not tolerable. Below there is 1 death per 1,000 man years. Here 1 death per 1 million man years. Okay, how the number came? That is important. Normally accidents, they used to call it 1 accident in 100 man years. So this is the basis. What is well, you are driving, you will face that much risk. Okay, 1 in 100 man years for our fishing industry. So all other industries, this is risk is there. So this risk, there is, you are more little bit advanced. 1 in 1,000 man years, you are agreeing it's tolerable because you have a risk. That is, your risk is less than your normal what you risk you face in the road or any other places. Okay, if you have to target, a regulator body will ask you to target 1 in 1 million man hours, but normally it will not be possible. They will see that you are in alarm, but when you have to prove it, you are in alarm by what safety measures you are taking. All the LOPA studies are based on this one only. You are proving it to the regulator body. Okay, I am in alarm. There is a risk. I am in alarm. If they found it, you are not in alarm. You are in a tolerable risk. They will ask your company to close. Okay, this is the thing, Allah principle, and all these things, all this risk matrix, all these things are based on. Okay, so same thing, you have to reduce the risk. This is the risk reduction. You have to show I am reducing the risk. If I have a risk here, I can put a SIL 1. If my risk is here, I have to go for SIL 2. If it is my risk is here, I have to go for SIL 3. That is the safety integrated function definition. Okay. Now, okay, we are thinking about safety integrated function. Now, we have other protections also. You can see there is a one process occurring. Okay, suddenly the process deviation occurs. For example, you have 2 feeds. One cold feed is coming, out feed is coming to the feed system. Because I am telling the system, it's a little bit example, everybody can understand. Suppose, for example, your hot feed coming from a CDU or any other units, it got tripped. You are having only cold feed. What you will get? Drops, and your level control will take, and it will try to control. That is a basic process control system. It will try to increase the cold feed, try to maintain the level. Okay, still it is not possible. Always full open. Is there any other issues? And it is not designed for that one, that much feed. It is 100 meter cube and it is designed only for 50 or 60 makeup. So then you will have a low level. So operator will have a process alarm and he will interfere it. What he will do, he will reduce the plant load. Okay, he will try to maintain the level. Okay, still he has not interfered. He may be somewhere thing, or he got some other thing he is not activating. He is not functioning. You lost process control system, and maybe it may not be designed for it, and you lost operator control also. Then your trip function comes into it. Okay, this is a safety integrated function. Okay, even it can fail also. If you have a single element, same less level control, if level control is failing, this one also will fail. Whatever LT initiating element fail, this one also fail. Okay, then some may be a pressure scenario. If I am considering level scenario, if it is a pressure scenario, so your pressure PSC will come and it will protect you. Here level means there is no layer here. Then what will happen if the pump seal leak occurs? You have a firefighting system, or you got what is the other emergency response, and ultimately what your consequence. You can see these are the layers of protections. Okay, we have to analyze what is the credibility and reliability of these layers of protections, and what is the protection we need here. If the consequence is heavy, if I am a LPG or anything, it goes for an explosion, it can affect up to 2 kilometers. I cannot go for a SIL 1 year. I have to see what are the other safety measures I have. Otherwise, I have to go for a SIL 2 or SIL 3. Okay, then I have to test it. Okay, so now we are going to analyze this layer credibility and reliability. Okay, so this is the same thing. You used to call it onion also. Okay, basic the signaling system, basic process control, critical alarms. If it is not function, safety integrated function come in line, or your physical protection. Then if it releases, what will be the actions you are going to take? Still, I think what will be the emergency response with respect to the plant and with respect to the community. Normally, we will not give the credit for this three because it is not properly measured. LOPA is some measurement should be there. Okay, if we are not properly measuring, okay, no need to consider. You should be able to prove it. Okay, some calculations. That's what they will be checking. ERDMP, you are doing your level 3 emergency once in a year, level 2 emergency once in 2 years, and you have to record it and you have to give it to the government. Okay, and level 3 emergency, there will be a external party inspecting also, because your district collector will come. Your all the people will get involved in level 3 and how you are acting. So these are the getting you have to. If you are not doing that, they will not give the credit, and how much you are prepared. Okay, that is it comes over here. But mostly we will not give credit because we are not able to give the correct value for it, because it is highly deviating. You will not be able to depend. You will not be able to calculate.
Excuse me, Mr. Suresh.
Yeah.
And just I need to ask this question. Okay, what about the mitigation and the prevention layers? Yes. Okay.
Which one? Mitigation layer.
Yeah.
Normally we have two types. One is proactive layers before the event occurs. Just like a bow tie, consider a bow tie. The bow tie tops with the top event. And the left side of it, it's the protective measures. Right side of it, how we are going to mitigate the consequences. For example, if my pump seal leak occurs, I can have a sprinkler system. Sprinkler system, what will happen? So it will not allow you to disperse properly, or it will try to contain it. It will try to reduce it to reaching a ignition source. Or you can identify the zone as a zone 0 so that there is no ignition sources. So what are these other protection layers, mitigation measures you have? Okay, that is a thing. That is we used to call passive. So, for example, dike, any naphtha tank or anything leaks, it will get contained in a dike. Okay, are you able to understand, or you need further explanation?
That's good.
Okay, so this is a general other representation. Okay.
Suresh, while we are carrying out HAZOP, we normally do not consider a double jeopardy scenario, right? So is this the same thing?
I'm not getting you. Can you repeat, please?
While we are carrying out HAZOP study, we are not going to consider a double jeopardy scenario, right? So is this the same?
We will consider safety.
So is this the same thing applicable to SIL also? Because if I consider SIL 3 level of level for SIF, then I need to have 3 transmitters, right?
So not required 3 transmitters. If you, for example, if you are requiring SIL 3, but just you complete your sentence, then it will be easy for me to explain.
Okay. So let's suppose if I am considering SIL 3 level requirement for SIF, then in my safety instrumented function, I have 3 transmitters. So the failure of 2 out of 3 transmitters, the probability is less, but should I consider that particular scenario while I am carrying out SIL study?
Yeah, actually, one thing, actually, you clearly mentioned, okay, so 3 transmitters and 1 logic solver and final element. For example, if you consider, if it is this SIL3, why we are telling SIL3 means failure rate of, because this we will be controlling, failure rate of the 2 elements occurring at the same time, it's almost very rare.
Yeah, exactly.
Then probability of failure demand becomes very much less. So I can consider this as a little bit, okay, it's dependable. Okay, so with respect to 3 initiating elements, now what happens now? Suppose if I consider only 1 element, 1 transmitter alone, okay, and logic server and final element. I am telling this is a SIL3. Then SIL3, that LT has to be tested once in 6 months or once in 3 months. Proof testing becomes very, very important. Not only if I can buy a nuclear based instrument or anything, I can buy it, but I have to prove it. Because in the meantime, it may get deteriorated. Whether it will function or not, we don't know. So we have to test it, whether it's functioning or not. Normally, you will go for functioning. So, for example, even if you tested the initiating element, final element, you will not be able to check it. For example, if I considering one valve is getting closed or compressor getting trip wall actuation, I cannot go and check the compressor trip wall. There are provisions now, compressor steam turbine or anything. There are provisions. You can play with it. You can have 10%, it will close and it will open. That is a passive test, is something they will call. Okay, you can test it whether that valve is operating or not. But you are not sure whether the valve will close fully. So the SIL3 problem is, if you consider 3 elements, you can be failure rate is almost SIL, and you can isolate feed also, you can check the 1 element. Okay, you can give, because 2 has to fail. You can test, because proof test also you can do very easily. You can give a one first value, or you can do one value, because other has to fail, then only it will trip.
Okay.
You got it?
Yeah, I got it. Since you had explained very well, the next question of is regarding the logic solver. Let's suppose if I want to raise the level of SIL for the logic solver, how can I do that? Suppose if I have a SIL1 logic solver and I want to upgrade it to SIL3, then how can I do that?
Yeah, normal. There is a normal assumption. Normally, failure of because in logic solver you don't have moving parts.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so logic solver normally if it will be in a SIL3, SIL2 rate, but when we are discussing a SIF, we have to see the weakest link. Logic solver always will be a strongest link. Okay, even then also logic solver also, if you go to now present condition APM model and all, you will have a standby model will be there. Okay, if one module is failing, the other model will come into picture. Okay, so this is the only problem will come with respect to the final elements.
Okay.
So final elements normally it may get stuck up, it will not actuate. So there it comes, instead of if you go for a SIL3, you will go for 2 final elements. Okay, for example, this ideal example is furnace. If you have a fuel gas, you can have a block and bleed. You can see there will be 2 blocks and there will be a bleed. So both will not fail at the same time. Both valves, at least one valve will close. Okay, there is a positive isolation. So vent also it opens. Like that they will decide. So problem mostly will come with respect to initiating elements and final element. If the initiating element, they will go for 2 out of 3 logic like this. They will try to solve it. So SIL3 that can be brought down to SIL1. Okay, because you have 3 elements. On final element also, if there is a possibility, they are not dependent. They will have 2 elements. So all the 2 UVs will be what? It will be SIL2 rated. UVs and all will be SIL2 rated. That is, but both failing at the same time, it becomes very rare. 2 final elements, then it becomes simple. And if you're going for a single loop, one single element, one logic solver, one final element, proof testing becomes very important.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Suresh.
Okay. Then I will proceed. Then you will be able to understand. Actually, when I am giving example, you will get it clearly. Okay.
Okay. Okay, Suresh.
So when you are going for a control, what are the controls we used to give? Hierarchy of controls. When you are suppose you have a higher consequence, what I can do. For example, if I have a pump CC, say provide a what you call detector. Detector means it's okay, it's fine. But detector should be linked with the sprinkler system or automatic system. Then becomes engineering. Or if there is a H2S leak, I can ask operator to use always portable detector. I cannot consider as a control. He may use it, he may not use it. Whether that detector will work or may not work. So when we are considering any safeguards or anything, when you want to increase the loop dependency, you got to go for engineering controls. For example, if I have a SIL 3, I want to drop it down to SIL 1. I need to have other engineering controls, dependable control. Sometimes they will have 2 trips. For example, if a feed pump is the surge pump, low load trip, it will trip the feed pump. There will be a pump discharge flow also, low flow, it will trip the pump also. But they will go for it. So just to make it SIL 3 to SIL 1 instead of, because proof testing becomes very important. And normally we will not be able to do the proof test. That is practically experience. We used to be fail in it because the way we do, it depends upon the person knowledge and how he is doing, how frequently we are doing. Sometimes you will go for maintenance, we will end up in problem. Okay, that's what we will try to be in a SIL 1 loop. There might not be possible. Then we have to go for SIL 2. SIL 3, we will try to avoid it as much as possible. SIL 4, we don't require. If it comes in SIL 4, we will try to change. We will simply say change the design. Okay. So this is the way. Now we have to understand, because low bias numbers and generalized numbers. Okay, it's not important. It's generalized numbers. Okay. Now BPS. If you have a BPS, what failure rate I can give? Once in 10 years, or 10 risk reduction factor of 10. This is risk reduction factor. This is a PFD. Risk reduction factor is inverse of PFD. 1 by PFD. If it means 10. You can say one loop. I normally by experience can say every 10 years it will not fail. Maybe. Sometimes if it's a handling clean fluid, it will not fail even for 20 years, 25 years. But if you are handling dirty fluids or anything, it will be failed maybe once in 5 years or once in 3 years. And what control you have and all everything. So generally, this is all the information collected from all the industries. They will make it collected and have one history data and make the worst case scenario. If you have a BPS, give it once in 10 years. That is risk reduction factor of 10. So the event will not occur. 10 times the event occur will get reduced. That's what we used to call it. So unless otherwise it is proved, we have to give higher rating. Otherwise, no. Same with operator alarm thing, we have to consider once in 10 years. If you have 10 alarms also, it's only 10 years because operator final element is the operator, he is the only one. He has time. So even if you have 10 alarms, it's once in 10 years. Suppose if the operator is, if there is a flooding of alarms, if there is an event occurs like a flooding, then the operator may not be able to identify the exact scenario. Their credit will not be given. Then another one is relief fall. Normally we used to give once in 100 years or 100, risk reduction factor of 100 in a overpressure scenario. But what happens, how you are testing the relief fall, that becomes very important. This is the international standard. But India normally relief fall has to be tested once in 2 years and it has to be tested by the third party. And the testing equipment has to be calibrated and it should be proved. Normally there is some suspicion is there. So normally we won't give once in 100 years or risk reduction factor of 100. We'll give 10. Okay, we will reduce the dependency. Okay, so same. What are the protection layers and what are the things? For example, if you have a SIS, that is still the safety index is still rating 1. It is once in 10. Normally we will not give once in 100 unless otherwise it is proof tested properly. Everything we will give once in 10 or risk reduction factor of 100. Normally we will give 10 only. Same for SIL 2. Here proof testing becomes very important. Document becomes very important. Then only you can give risk reduction factor of 1000 or 100. Same for SIL 3. Risk reduction factor of 10,000, 2000. Everything depends upon the proof testing, how it is being done. Okay.
Suresh, I have one question over here.
Yeah.
Can you just, on this slide itself.
Yeah.
If you are telling operator alarm with sufficient time available to respond, the probability of failure in demand is 1 into 10 is to minus 1. How can I interpret that? It is in a minute or seconds or
here,
relative?
Yeah, actually, if I am assuming that event occurs, likelihood event occurs once in a year. Okay, if I have an operator alarm, operator I involve it, so that instead of occurring once in a year, for example, one pump having a seal leak going for an explosion, if I don't have anything, it can occur once in a year. If operator is there and for him feed is there, so that event can be reduced to once in 10 years. It will not occur once in 10 years because operator is there, he will try to protect it. Got risk reduction is you are reducing it once of 1 years, it may occur in once in 10 years. I am not changing the consequence. I am changing only the likelihood. Likelihood of the event occurring because operator is there, one protection layer is there, so he will not allow it to occur, he will stop it. Even he may fail also once in 10 years. That is understanding.
Okay, but
Okay.
in some time, during some time, while while we are operating the DCS system, there is a spurious trip also, right? Let's suppose
Yes.
if I have some furnace, right? It is being tripped just because of some cause, right? And it is a spurious. So since I am knowing this is spurious, I don't have sufficient amount of time to take an action to prevent the tripping of furnace, right?
Okay.
So how can I decide that? How I can decide that the amount of time which is available to take an action is appropriate or not?
Yeah. That's what normally we used to go for it. Normally you can say, suppose you are given 2 out of 3 logic. You can give it 1 out of 1 or you can take it as 2 out of that is 1 out of 2 or 2 out of. What is the difference between 1 out of 2 or 2? Suppose anyone fails, your reliability is lost. That is the only thing. Suppose if I have 2 pressure switches, anyone fails, you can actuate the trip. That is more reliable. Okay, but you will have a lot of spurious trips because even one PTR anything fails, it will trip the system. That's what you are going for 2 out of 3. 2 has to fail. Then only it will actuate the trip. Okay, this is reliability and spurious trip. That is reliability and safety. Both you have to combine. If you are going for a less voting, okay, 1 out of 1 or 1 out of 2, it becomes more thing. 1 out of 1 means it's both sides, it's a problem. Sometimes it will not work, your safety, it will not trip. Sometimes it may spuriously trip, it will create a reliability problem also. So then they will go on for 1 out of 2. So anyone trips also, it will trip. But that becomes a spurious trip, reliability problem. So to address both the things, they are gone for 2 out of 2. You got my point?
Mr. Suresh,
Yeah.
sorry, I don't understand you. What does it mean 1 out of 1? Yani, why you make it voting for one detector or one initiator or something like this?
No, actually, so in some places it is there. They will depend on single. It's in old plants. I'm telling you, 20 years, 23 years. They will have a level transmitter controlling the level. Same low level trip, it will trip the pump or it will actuate it. So if the LT malfunctions, it will trip the pump also on the lowest. That is the spurious. That is 1 out of 1. Okay. Got it?
Sorry, I don't hear you well.
No, 1 out of means voting system. Suppose you have only one transmitter or only one level controller, if it fails, it can trip the system. Okay, we are depending upon that will function. Okay, there is a still rating comes. If you want to have 1 out of 1, you are depending upon only one. This scenario will come because there may be a high pressure vessel. There is no tappings you can provide. If you go for a remodel, you may have to go for 100% radiography. Then you have to depend upon the one LT or one transmitter or anything. Is it just like, suppose I am having a old Maruti car, just for example. If any accident occurs, whether serious accident, whether there is a possibility of fatality. Yes, no?
Yes.
Suppose if I have an Audi car, there are a lot of multiple bags are there and everything is safety tested, everything. Accident occurs. There is a possibility, but there is a possibility also I can escape without anything.
Okay.
Okay, this is the difference. Okay, normally we will not prefer 1 out of 1. That is the thing. Okay, even this hardy car also, there is a possibility you can go for a fatality. You cannot say so surely you will escape. Okay, so there
Okay.
are multiple chances so that you can protect it. Okay, shall we move it to next one?
I have one more doubt.
Yeah.
In the earlier slide, you showed about the risk matrix. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
The equipments and the components like valves, everything in a plant is designed for 25 years.
Okay.
But in our assessment, we are considering the probability of failure that components once in 4 years, once in 20 years, once in 100 years, and more than 100 years.
Okay, 1 minute. Wait, this is normal doubt. You have to get it. I know nothing in it. This is
Yeah.
actually, it's called man years. For example, in a refinery, there will be 1,000 employees.
Yeah.
Okay. So there it is man years. It's not only years, it's a man years.
It's man years. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. And another thing is, like in our refinery and petrochemicals, the fire and gas detection system.
Hmm.
These are the most vulnerable thing because
Yeah.
it gets out of its healthiness is lost as and when basis, means more frequently
Yeah.
rather than our once in a year or once in a 4 year, and these
So
are
the
the
fire
most
and gas detection system, it's very, it's very, what do you call it? Depends upon a lot of other.
vulnerable, mainly vulnerable of moisture content. These are field instruments, and they are very sensitive also.
No, I will explain why this issue is there because still it is not addressed properly in the refineries or everywhere. Now it is that is getting little bit because we as a risk professionals, I used to ask a lot of questions in there because normally we design a FNG system based on geographic base. If you have a 1 by 1 meter, you put a one detector like that is the philosophy up till now. That is the standard also required. ISA 84, all the standards are requiring only this. We used to call it geographic scenario. But there are a lot of other factors. If your wind direction varies, your wind velocity varies, if your leak direction varies, there are a lot of issues are there. Your detector may not pick up. Whether your detector may be correct, detector faulty, there is other thing. Even your detector will not be able to pick up. Nowadays, we are asking go for a scenario based, not geographical based. Scenario based means you have to check it which the wind direction. You got to check all the directions. You have to check the leak whether the detector will pick up. You may have to put 2 detectors there to make it 100% efficient or 80 to 90%. You will try to target 80 to 90%. Any leak occurs, you will be able to detect in all the wind direction thing on all the wind speeds. Okay, suppose if you have a point detector at the seal leak position, if you have a vertical seal leak, it will not detect. Then you need to have a both one point type detector and one OPD, open path detector. So this is the study now. It is getting slowly. We are pushing it. As a risk professional, we are pushing it because FNG is considered as one of the major thing, but the dependency is lot of parameters are affecting it. Wind velocity, leak direction, wind speed, wind stability, and a lot of other things are there. Okay, so that geographic base we don't want to do it now. We want to switch it over to the scenario base, but there is lot of opposition is there. We are trying to because to study this one it's very difficult. Suppose if you want to study the scenario base, I have to analyze a scenario of 720 scenarios. That becomes really what you call very tough and very laborious. So we are trying to contain it. So the 10 to 12 scenarios we will check it so that for wind speed we will see what is the predominant wind speed, what is the predominant wind direction. So control the number of scenarios you analyze, then go for FNG detection. So this is the thing going on. It's completely other story. When get my number or anything, you can call me. I will explain in depth.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Now we will go to the risk reduction. That's the thing. This we are there and layers. Okay. I explain this one. Now we will go to the simple example. Okay. Now I have said two. This is a PFD I have given. Okay, just to make you understand. I have taken one diesel hydro treating system. That is the new system that is coming to the India and all. It is there in Gulf and all. It is operating at higher pressure, 80 bar to 160 bar. And you have a, here you can see there are two feeds. This is a feed surge drum. Okay, this what you call coalescer. This is a feed surge drum. And you have two feeds. One is cold feed coming to a coalescer system, and hot feed, both joining together, goes to a filter system. From here it goes to a pre-feed, the exchanger. It is exchanged heat with the product thing, and it goes to a feed surge drum. And the feed surge drum is designed to have a 15 to 20 minutes of resident time. From here it is pumped to the high pressure system. Downstream of the pump, it may be above 80 plus kg per centimeter square. Here it will be around 2 to 4 bar kg per centimeter square. What we are going to analyze here, okay, there will be a one safety integrated function here. Okay, low, if it low level trip comes in this one, it should trip the pump because it's a high differential pump. Any level loss, the pump may go for dry run. It will end up in a sea leak, or it's a very big consequence because the diesel, whatever you are getting, it is higher temperature because you are preheating it. You will generate vapor. It will generate in a VCE scenario. That is vapor cloud explosion scenario. Okay, this is the, I am assuming that as an example. Okay, I'm going to the same. Thus you can see it low level in the feed surge drum. Okay, trip of the, that's logic solver getting actuated. It trips the pumps. Okay, this is my safety integrated function. That's what I am taking for this example. But when you are doing this one, this type of safety integrated function, you have to break it. System, you have to break it individual safety integrated functions. Okay, this is a safety integrated system. You have to break it. Okay, I will go to one Excel sheet. You are able to see on Excel sheet now. Okay, I think you are able to see the new screen. Okay, Excel sheet. So what we will do normally, we will take one unit, we will break the safety integrated system into individual safety integrated functions. You can see flow, recycled gas flow, low flow, what will be the initiating element, what is the initiator, that is a thing, and what is the final elements, and low level. Okay, surge drum, what is the final elements. We will break the safety integrated system into different, so you can say multiple. So how many safety integrated? You have almost 37 safety integrated functions. So we will break it. So now we will take one example, that is low level trip, LZAL 1504, low level in the feed surge drum. If it comes, it stops the feed pump. That is major thing. Other things are additional. Our major link is it has to stop the feed pump. This is the initiating element. This is the final element and logic solver. Okay. Now go back to the. I'll go back to the presentation. Okay. So this is a thing. So we are going to check it. This one. Okay. The low level. So I'm going to check this one, low level feed surge drum. What will be the action on it? That is, it stops the pumps. This is a final element. So I'm going to check only this SIF. When you are doing low analysis, you have to break that safety integrated system. This is the safety integrated system. You have to break it into individual safety integrated functions. And we have to see all the, what is the initiating causes, what will be the impact, what will be the frequency and all. Okay. Now, before going into this one, okay, just now you are able to see in the PFD, no? So now we have to see what are the possibilities these causes can come. Okay, you can have a cold feed supply failure, hot feed supply failure. You can have a filter choke, or you can have a level control that is there. It can malfunction, close the LVs. Okay, these are all the causes. So we have to identify the initiating causes. Okay. Go to the new share. Okay, now you can see it. So this is the LOPA worksheet. Are everybody able to see the Excel sheet?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
so we can
Yes.
see.
Yes, yes, we
So
can.
this is the LOPA sheet. Now we are going to analyze one safety integrated function, that is low level trip of the feed surge drum. It should trip the pump. This is a safety integrated function. I am going to analyze what is should be the safe risk reduction factor of this safety integrated function. Okay. So now first I have to identify what are the causes for it. If you see, I identified first, I have to, suppose if consequence occurs, what will be my severity category? Suppose if it's consequence occurs, forget about the safeguards and all. Low level comes, pump seal, pump dry run occurs, pump seal occurs. There is a possibility of vapor cloud. It can explosion, a vapor cloud explosion. If it occurs, there is a possibility of a fatality. Okay, that's what I consider P4. Okay, now this is the thing. Oh, 1 minute. So this is the rating you can see. The same thing it is there. Okay, suppose if I have a fatality, I mentioned it is P4. It's a targeted frequency. So targeted frequency will be once in 100 year, once in 100,000 man years this event can occur. This is the company requires this my targeted frequency for this event. One fatality. This is the thing. Okay, this is the first we have to fix it. What we are going to target. Okay, so it is a P4. There is another analysis also. Environment also there is separate, and financial also. Reputation normally we will not do in the LOPA because we don't exactly figure out. Okay, what will be the regulatory and all. So first, this is the thing we can quantify. That's why we are considering people, environment, and asset. Okay, here there is a more probability P4. I am giving fatality possibility of you should be in a worst case scenario. Always be in a don't be in a thing. So when you are doing analysis, risk analysis, always you got to be in a worst case scenario. It may not occur also. Maximum possibility is fatality is possible. One operator may be there. Okay, it can occur. So company says it should occur once in 100,000 man years. Okay, now I have to analyze what are the causes for it. Okay, and what will be the frequency of it? What are the initiating causes? This we can identify from the ASAP. Okay, that LIC of the feed surge drum, if it malfunctions, if it closes, the FE or hot supply feed failure. 1 minute. Okay, hot supply of feed failure or cold supply feed failure or USZV in the cold supply, USZV and the hot supply. This can fail close. These are fail close faults. So I have to identify what are the possible causes. In this place, ASAP will help because ASAP you will be identifying each and every thing, and you will be putting this safety integrated function as a safeguard. Now you have to analyze the ASAP where you are considered safety integrated function as a safeguard. Bring up all the causes. Okay, this is the initiating causes. Now ASAP considers it okay. Now we are LOPA it comes. What will be the probability of failure of it? That is the likelihood. This protection, this one may fail. This initiating event will occur. What is the probability of it? Here only it goes ASAP getting differentiated from the LOPA getting differentiated from the ASAP. I am assuming the LIC that control I am giving very stringent. Okay, once in 10 years it can fail. Okay, this is the thing. Point 1, that is once in 10 years. Hot feed supply failure, it fails because of, see this one, we will finish up this one, then we will come over here. Okay. For LIC, once in 10 years, it's okay. But it is a 2 out of 3 element. I can give once in 100 years also. Because LT failure, because of both the elements has to fail. But I want to be a little bit stringent here. I gave once in 10 years. You can give once in 100 years also. That is 1.01. And this, we can see, are able to see CM1, CM2, CM3, conditional modifiers. This pump sealing can occur, vapor cloud explosion can occur, but operator has to be there. And there should be a probability of ignition.
Suresh, I just want to ask you about this number.
Okay.
From where we get the numbers? And
Yes,
normally,
I will explain. I will explain.
Okay.
Okay. No, actually, we will be assuming, so probability of occupation. So normally 24 hours operator will not be there, and he will be there mostly 4 hours to 6 hours. He will be visiting and coming out like that. We are more stringent. We are telling half a time he will be there. That's what I have given 0.5. You got the number, how I am getting the number. I am assuming field operator will be there 12 hours per day. Okay. Then what about probability of ignition? Where I am getting it? This is the worst case scenario. Probability of ignition, normally you have a lot of guidelines are there. That is OGP, that is oil and gas producers guidelines, lot of other documents where they collect information from all the refineries, all the industries, and they will have a database. Okay. So this database is actually, I can give 1 minute. I will show you the document for you. Okay. This is the document actually. This is a OGP document. Okay. So this is just a data collection. So I can identify it. So you can see different scenarios and different things. This is available in the net itself. Suppose pipe industrial, different scenarios they will check. Pipe industrial, rural, if it is LPG rural. Suppose the leak occurs, you can see the thing. What will be the ignition probability? What is the leak rate? Both are very important. If leak rate is very small, ignition probability is less. If leak rate is more, it reaches 1%. Okay, for example, if pipe liquid, suppose if I am MS or diesel, I am transferring. Okay, if the leak rate is big, that is 1000 kgs per second, probability of ignition is 1. If I have 10 kgs per second, probability of ignition around 0.6 or like, so it can be by numbers you can see. Release rate versus ignition probability. This is the thing. From here, we will be taking it. Okay, if you have 1000 kgs, it is 0.07 ignition probability. Okay, this is the blue line. Okay. Okay, from here we will be taking the ignition probability. Okay, so normally if you see, I consider 0.3. 0.3 is the worst case. You have seen only 0.07. Risk professional always will be a worst case scenario person. So 0.3 is the maximum probability of ignition can occur any leak. So we will consider maximum 0.3. Now you understand where we are getting the number.
Yeah, Suresh.
Yeah, okay. Because if you consider 0.3 is the worst case, but if you want to go to the CLOPA very, very specific numbers, you can go to the OGP and TNO Purple Book. There are HSC also. There are a lot of data are there. And you can take the exact number and you can from the plot and you can take it. But it becomes very laborious process. LOPA will not be possible. We will consider a worst case. If you are safe here, we are safe in the condition also. And vulnerability, how the operator will get. He may have a bones and he can escape. Okay, I cannot give a 1. Now, as a risk professional, I am telling, okay, you will die. If you face it, you will die. But there are other things. Suppose if you have a suit, fire suit, or you have any other things, you will not end up in death. You have to give the factors. But normally we won't give, we will take 1. If you want to depth inlet analysis, you can go for it. With this worst case factors, if you are getting SIL 1, it's absolutely fine. Still, if you are getting SIL 3, then you can go in depth, you can dig into it. Okay?
Hello.
Then next one. Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah.
Can you explain this figure once more?
Which one, no?
This 3.0 E or H201.
Yeah, that is actually we used to call it conditional modifiers. For example, scenario as I'm thinking, the scenario is occurring. For example, pump seal leak, it goes into a vapor leak, it ends up in a vapor cloud explosion, explosion occurs. Explosion can occur. For suppose if it is an unmanned area, there is no possibility of death because I am discussing only the people. What is the frequency of the people can be there? That is the conditional modifier CM1, CM2, CM3. What are the conditional modifier? Whether operator is there, how frequently it will be there, whether the leak will get ignited or not, even the accident occurs, whether operator can have other protection measures so they can escape, all these things. And when we are assuming, we will be assuming in the worst case, if you are giving an exact value, you have to prove it. So worst case means it will be okay. What is the maximum probable? I am considering here 12 hours operator will be there. Most of the times per day, 12 hours operator remaining at the place, it's almost very rare. You will be there for 2 hours or 3 hours. But I am considering worst case. Okay, these are the conditional modifiers. But I have to give it. I cannot give one. Okay? Even though I am considering, I have to give some credit for it. Okay. Then we have to see what are the other protection layers I have.
So
there should be independent first. Yeah.
Sorry for the initiating likelihood. Where do you get the number for initiating likelihood?
Which one?
Initiating likelihood. Where you got that number?
And event likelihood is actually, this is also taken from the database only. Now I shown on database. This is CCPS database.
Okay.
Okay. Database we can take, and if you consider once in 10 years, it is very, very stringent. Okay. Normally, if you say a control loop will not fail once in 10 years, but it may fail for very viscous fluids. Okay.
Okay.
So CCPS gives very stringent values. We will be using that one. Now we have to see what are the other protection layers. I have a safety integrated function, low level trip. Okay. But what are the other protection layers I have? So if I have given one general purpose design, once in risk reduction factor of 10, because I have here, if the pump low flow comes, pump automatically trips. If level is dropping, it's going to get cavitated. Automatically your minimum flow will open, or your low flow will actually trip. That will trip. That is independent of this low level trip. Okay. If I don't have pump discharge low flow trip, I should not give credit here. Okay, we will see that one. Then what is the other thing I have? Low level, I have given one where I am considering control loop failure. Then I cannot give credit for DCS control. That's what I consider one. If I am giving credit, I have to risk reduction factor of 10, I have to give. And suppose I am getting alarm. Okay, suppose if I am getting low level alarm, operator will interfere. This is independent because I have 2 out of 3 level transmitters. All 3 will not fail. At least I can get alarm in one. If I have only one transmitter, then I cannot give credit for the alarm here. And other credits I'm getting, it's not nothing related to the relief, nothing with the other, you can see mitigation measures, I am not giving credit. Okay, when I calculate all this, it will be my targeted frequency is here, my event likelihood frequency is here, and what is the safe reduction, then it ends up, what is the risk reduction, then it will calculate all these things. So all the causes you got to calculate. Okay. Shall we remove one thing, then we will do the calculation. I removed it. Okay, just we will do the calculation here. Suppose heart feed failure occurs. Heart feed failure, it can occur CDU upstream unit trip. Okay, I can have a failure of 2. Once in 6 months it can fail. I am just assuming. It will be depending upon the refinery. It can occur once in a month also. Or it may not occur also. If you have a constant feed, nothing will happen. So I am assuming little bit, think, okay, the CD unit will trip once in 2 years. I am giving 2. Okay. So vulnerability, I don't want to take any credit. I am giving 1. For probability of ignition, I am giving 0.3 because this is the maximum possible. Probability of occupancy, I am giving 0.5. This is the maximum possible. Okay. And I have another trip also that will help me because low level naval will not trip, and I have a low flow trip also. That's why I am giving credit for it. Here your hot feed fails, what happened? Your level control, what it will do, it will open the cold feed. It will try to improve it. So it will try to avoid the scenario. So we have to give credit for it. I am giving once in 10 years, it will reduce the risk reduction factor of 10. Alarm, operator will interfere because you will be knowing CD unit trip and low level in the vessel also. I am not giving any credit for any other thing. Okay. Now see the risk reduction factor changes. Okay, risk reduction factor says, so I am this one. Suppose for example, if I have only one NT, okay, I cannot give credit here because so I cannot give alarm and both are same. So I can take credit for alarm or I can take credit for this one. So I don't want to take credit for alarm. So what will happen? Okay, see it has gone to SIL 2 because I am losing one protection layer. This protection factor becomes 315 and it becomes SIL 2. Okay. See, because there is a 3 LTs, so I'm going to get alarm. Okay. So I will get risk reduction factor of 45. It is a SIL 1. Same for cold field failure. This I am considering once in a year. That's also very aggressive. All other things will be same for me. Vulnerability, probability of ignition, and probability of occupation, and the other trip. Okay. Okay. So all others will be same because so I have the level trip also. Okay, I have alarm also. Okay, believe I am not giving credit. Okay, likewise, USZV close also. USZV close normally it will be very rare because all these valves will be SIL 2, but they will not be checked. So I will be taking once in a year because I am giving SIL 1 only because there is no proof test. Okay, once in a year means 0.1. Okay, vulnerability 1, probability of ignition I am giving 0.3, probability of occupation I am giving 0.3. These are all conditional modifiers. And there is a one more trip that is helping me to trip the event, even the lower level comes also. Okay, so all other things are same. The same thing for this one also. Just copying this one. Okay, now I will do the calculation. It ends up in 63. Risk reduction factor it requires 63 and it is SIL 1. Okay, so this is the way to calculate it. You have to identify what is the SIF function, what will be its consequence. If SIF is not there, what will happen? What will be the company required risk acceptability, and what are the possible causes for it? What are the conditional modifiers with respect to people? What are the other protection layers I have? They should be independent. That is very important. If both are no, you got to give. You may get 10 alarms. No, but you got to give credit for only one alarm. Same thing for E2. If you see, I am not giving any conditional modifier. People only conditional modifier. Other things are no conditional modifiers. Because it's going to occur, it is going to happen environment, it is going to be there. There is no probability there. Same for asset, there is no probability there. Okay. Sometimes you will have a less, suppose if you are having furnace, you will have a less effect on the people and you may have a more effect on the asset. That may require SIL 2 also. Okay. Most of the times it will be people and almost you can say 40 to 60% of the time SIL2 with the higher rate of SIL with respect to people, and 40% of the time with respect to the asset. Okay, environment with respect to refinery petrochemicals, it will not be that much. If it is acid plants and or anything, or if the discharge is going to the river or anything, environment will come in. There it may require higher SIL rating. Okay, I will go back to the. No, this is now we have analyzed this one. So same for this shift rating also you can analyze. Okay, so this is the P&AD I have given. So you can go through it also. It will help you to analyze this one. So this is the, I have given the, how we are going to calculate this also in the calculation presentation. Okay, and I have given in the presentation where we are taking the probability of ignition. How we are taking the probability of ignition. Okay, so this is the low power. So now we'll go to other general things. So even the safety integrated function, when we are analyzing it, this thing also we have to keep in picture. That is how frequently this safety integrated function will come into picture. Whether it is low, mostly once in 2 years or once in 3 years, or medium or once in a year. High, it's regularly it will require. For example, lift, mostly mechanical things, it will be in high. How frequently this safety integrated function will be called into operation. If it is not occurring, what will be the consequence? It is minor, serious, extensive. It is a general table to understand. Okay. Suppose the event occurs very low frequency, very rarely it occurs, and the consequence of it very minor. How many protection layers I can have? Even one protection layer, it's not medium means it's one protection layer. Suppose if I have a high consequence means in a high frequency, even if it is minor means I need a 2 protection layers. Okay, any question in it? It's to give a general idea how many protection layers you should have. For example, if you have extensive, maybe explosion, anything extensive, if frequency is very high, you may need SIL3 if you are 1. Even if you have 2 protection layers, they have to be SIL3. If you have 3 protection layers, it can be SIL1. Okay, it's a general idea to get you. You can see if you are increasing number of protection layers, dependable number of protection layers, your SIL rating will drop down. We have to target this one. Because when you are targeting SIL3 and thing, other factor what I am telling, proof testing will become very important. If you are not properly proof testing, if proof testing is not properly done, the SIL3 will drop down to SIL1 category and you will not be properly protected. You will be in a very, what you call, you will be thinking the event will not occur, but the event will not occur. False protection. Okay. Proof testing becomes very, very important when you are going for SIL2 and SIL3. SIL1 proof testing, it will be almost once in 2 years or once in 4 years. There you will have a shutdown, you can do it. You can check all the elements and proof testing will be very fine. Okay,
Hello?
100%. Ah, yes.
Side proof test interval.
Yeah. Proof test interval. Normally we will have a turnaround once in 2 years now. SIL1 requires proof testing once in 2 years or once in 4 years.
Once in a 2 year.
Yeah, that will be better, or once in 5-10 years also it agrees. But when you are going for a SIL3, it has to be done once in a year or once in 6 months. It depends upon the manufacturer conditions.
Oh.
Then when your plant is running, you will not be able to do it properly.
Yeah, if we are not able to do it for a desired proof test interval and it will increase for 1 to 1.5 years, then what is to be done?
Now, what happens? For example, just I'll give you an example. You have a car. For every 6 months, you need to have a maintenance. You got to check the brakes, you got to check the engine oils and all everything. For example, you are not doing it. As per SIL3 means you got to do it once in 6 months. You are not doing it. For some other reason or anything. It prolongs once in 2 years or 3 years. You can have a frequent brake failures now. then it will end up in a consequence. Similar. Okay, SIL3 means you have to depend on it. That is how to depending on it, you have to do the proof testing also. Not only buying a quality, you have to prove it that quality is there or not, because always there is a possibility of failures.
This proof test interval, if you uh, do it on time, it will reduce our risk. That is, we have to maintain the SIL.
Yeah.
3 condition, we have to do the proof test.
Yes.
So, but time, this time interval we are considering at the time of calculation of SIL.
No, actually this time interval will be given by the manufacturer of the particular initiating element or final element or logic solver. He will give it. He will give us a mean time to failure, some factors there. From that one, you can take it. Okay, I have to do the proof test. It is a manufacturer data. Okay, you say SIL3 and it will ask you to do is also, you have to do the proof test once in 6 months.
100% proof test and it is there and some is a
100%.
partial.
No, it's not, mostly it's not possible. That is what we prefer to go add to the number of protection layers, bringing it down to try it as much as possible to SIL1. There may not be possible because old plants, it may not be possible. There you have to go, then you have to go for the proof test also. Okay.
Okay, Mr. Suresh, I think regarding this proof test, you need to make shutdown, or you need to make something like override signal for the input.
Yes.
How can you test? How can you test the final element itself? You have one loop.
That is the problem. That is what risk professional we will tell. Add additional protection layer. Suppose if you have one single transmitter, one logic solver, one XV. If it is a SIL3, you will not be able to check it. Closing the XV is not possible. Okay. So then what happens? The proof test dependability, the quality of proof test goes up. Some XVs you can close partially. Partial stroke test we used to call it. 10% it will move. So okay, this will move. But it will 100% will close, we don't know. We can't do it. So ultimately proof test quality comes down. After 1 year or 2 years, the SIL3 rated element drops down to SIL2 or SIL1.
But during the operation or the operation period of the plant, we identify the safety critical element during this period. So one of the safety critical element is considered as the shutdown valve.
Yeah.
And how can we manage or how can we maintain the shutdown valve reliable and apply the maintenance as per the manufacturer recommendation?
Yeah, actually that is the problem. Not instead of, if you have a one shutdown valve, we ask them to go for 2 shutdown valves. Then it becomes low SIL rated. Both valves failing at the same time, it's not possible because you will not be able to test in the running condition. Okay, there is a partial stroke test. Now they are telling, if they are telling SIL3, the valve is SIL3 rated, and you can do the partial stroke test once in 3 months. It's a partial stroke test means from 100% it will close up to 90%. Again, it will open back to 100%. So it is not sticky. It is operating like that, but that is not 100% proof. Risk professionals as such, we are not agreeing to it. We are not sure whether it fully closed. That's why we have to go for 2 XVs.
Okay, thank you.
So same.
Yeah, if we have a SIL3 in LOPA, and can we make a recommendation to register to SIL1 with additional the number of IPL that we have to provide?
Yes, that is the thing. That is the thing you have to do. That is the thing you want to analyze. Okay, you bring it down to SIL1, it is safe. Okay. The testing, because the proof testing takes backstage now. Okay, you have to add number of, because if you have only one LT, you can add 2 more LTs. You can go to 2 out of 3. Instead of having 1 pump trip, 1 logic, that is the tripping model, you can increase it to 2. That is one standby. Like this, we'll go drop down to SIL1 because it's a probability of failure on demand. If you have multiple probability of failure on demand on all the layers, it's very rare. If you have only one, you would depend on only one on that one, then it becomes very tough. Okay, then it has to be very proven. That is what higher SIL rate. Okay, and I'll go to next. Same risk graph is also same, exactly same. Okay, this is the risk graph. Okay, you can say consequence C1, C2, C3, C4. C1 is the less consequence, C4 is higher consequence. And mostly we will not be giving much numbers. It's little bit more generalized. You can see LOPA, it's more numbers. LOPA will get a very good result. Okay, this risk graph is little bit almost same. But only thing is you are generalizing the consequence. First is consequence, then we will see what will be the frequency of exposure time. What will be the frequency of this operator? That is a conditional modifiers. F1 and P1 are conditional modifiers. Okay, suppose if I have fatality, okay, I end up in, if the consequence is, I can still one, what this is a SIL rating. Okay, if I have a pump seal leak, it's a C4. What is the probability of frequency of the operator getting exposed? 0.5. Then I have to go to F1. So for example, there is a more probability, then I will have F2. Then what is the probability of ignition? Probability is happening with this hazard. If there is a possibility of ignition, then it will end up in SIL2. Then what is the probability of the event occurring? If it is less frequency event, it is SIL2. If it is the frequency of event is more, it ends up in SIL3. Okay, it's almost like a LOPA only. It's little bit generalized. You can do it very easily, very fast. But the numbers are not that much. If you go to LOPA, you can make it more strict and you can get the exact values. Okay, this graph is almost similar, but it's more generalized analysis. Okay, any questions?
Suresh?
Hello?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, just a question, please. Based on a little of my experience with respect to LOPA and the risk graph, I just think maybe because people cannot verify data, that's why they prefer to go with the risk graph approach.
Yeah, yes.
So maybe you could just throw more light on the benefits, the advantages and disadvantages of the LOPA and the risk graph method, because people are unable to verify data, vulnerabilities, likelihood. Maybe you've done a QRA, the values have not been validated, and then you throw them into the LOPA method, and then you're getting probability of failure on demand that are not consistent with the reality. So I think just help us tell us more about the difference or the advantages or the limitations of the risk graph and the LOPA method, please. Thank you.
Risk graph is a little bit generalized. You can do it very fast. But LOPA, it requires the thing. There are also a little bit CCP is giving generalized values. If you want to go to exact values, yes, there are data available. It's freely available now. There is mostly is OGP, HSC, and all this. They have the data. Sun TNO, Purple Book, the Netherlands. You have all. Then European itself, group itself, they have a data. They are collecting data from the companies. You know about RIDDER, reporting of incident dangerous occurrences. So from that RIDDER incident thing, they will get it. Okay, so they will collect it, have a database. From the database, we can take it. But there's all very laborious process. This graph is little bit simple. Okay, little bit depth you want to go, you can go to LOPA. You can use a generalized data given from CCPS. Or if you want little bit in depth, then you can collect the data, you can do it. LOPA gives that leverage.
Can you explain
Suresh?
about SIL validation and SIL verification?
No, I'm not getting it.
Can you please explain about SIL validation and SIL verification?
Yeah, actually, this is the thing. This is very important. This is the next topic of this one. Actually, this is SIL assessment. You are asking this shift loop has to be SIL 2, SIL 3. Next one is that is a verification and validation. What are the things coming in the validation? Mean time to failures. Your proof testing intervals. What is the effectiveness of your proof test? And who is doing the proof test? Whether he is qualified, whether his work is all thing. So all this will be coming into probabilities. These probabilities we will add. Then we will see what is the proof test actually effective. We have to identify the probability of failure and demand. If the failure of demand is more, its possibility is more. If you are not doing then you will not be seeing the SIL 3. If you have a SIL 3, we are telling you this equipment, this loop is SIL 3, may not be SIL 3 because you are not doing it. That is SIL verification, SIL validation. You got my point?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You have to
Mean-
prove it. That proving there's lot of MTTF used to call MTTF. That is mean time between failures. MTBF, mean time to failures. Okay, that's lambda, probability of failure demand. Okay, all these factors. It's a calculation. All these are probabilities based on your proof test. Okay, whether you are have bought a SIL 3 loop, you are staying in the SIL 3 because you are not doing proper maintenance, proper testing. It may end up in SIL 2. So this one document wise, we will prove it. That is a SIL validation, SIL verification.
Mr. Suresh, there is another term. It's called hardware fault tolerance.
Yes.
What does it mean in during our?
Actually, this is actually 6158. There are two standards. Is there IEC 6158, IEC 61511. So hardware fault tolerant is with respect to the final elements. Okay, what frequency we have any redundancy there? What are the things? All these things will come into this SIL verification. It's a little bit in-depth subject.
Suresh, what is the criteria for any of the scenario to qualify for the LOPA to carry out the SIL assessment while I am doing hazard?
Yeah, that's what generally I told you. General hazard. Normally you go for it. Vapor cloud explosions. What is the consequence rating you have to see? What consequence from the consequence you can decide. If there is a water, there is no consequence. That's not required. That's what SIF. When you have to do the LOPA analysis only for the safety integrated functions. You have interlock diagrams, cause and effect charts. For that one, only integrated functions only you have to do the LOPA. ASAP will consider everything, but LOPA will concentrate only on the safety interlocks, tripping functions.
Okay, Mr. Joseph, just a quick question, please. Now, with respect to BPCS, the basic process control systems,
okay,
the level, your control, your volume controls, and the rest of them. When we are trying to run the Cs, I thought probably we should just concentrate more on those controls that have shutdown functions, rather than just making them putting all the loop together.
Actually, your voice is little bit low. I am not breaking it. I'm not able to get what you are saying.
I didn't get your answer,
one thing. Just pick my mail, mention the thing. I will explain it to you individually. Okay. No need to worry about just take ID, or you can take down my phone number also, and just message me or anything. I will explain individually. That will be much better.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine.
Thank you. Thank you for
Thank
this.
you too. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. John?
Thank you, sir. Okay, I think we can. I have shared the course feedback link, and I'll be sending an email also. So thank you once again for participating.
Okay, thank
See
you.
you again next time.
Thank you, Ma. Thank you for everybody giving me opportunity. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Suresh.
Thank you.
Suresh. Really
Thank you,
appreciate it.
Suresh.